Hey, what's up guys, it's Arun, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the iPad Air 2 in 2020. I want to see if this iPad is still capable of handling day-to-day tasks and even some modern gaming on the App Store. This is actually my favorite iPad that I've ever owned, so I might be a little bit biased in this review. It's actually still my main daily driver as well. So let's break down how this guy performs in 2020. So I'm going to be breaking down this review into a couple of parts. First, I'm going to take a look at the design, then I'm going to take a look at how it performs and some of the specs of this iPad. Next, I'm going to look at the cameras, and finally, I'm going to look at how it performs in some gaming. So kicking things off with design, on the bottom of the iPad, you can see the two bottom firing stereo speakers, as well as the lightning port. On the right hand side of the iPad, you can see the two volume rockers. There is no mute switch or screen lock switch on this iPad, which is a bit of a bummer, but there is a microphone at the top. On the top of the iPad, you can see the power button, as well as a headphone jack there, which is pretty fantastic. On the left hand side of the iPad, it's completely bare. I do believe if you get the LTE model, there will be some LTE bands over there, but as mine isn't, I don't have anything there. On the back of the iPad, you can see another microphone in the top left, as well as the single camera, and the Apple logo and a few bits of iPad information at the bottom. On the front of the iPad, you can see the selfie camera, as well as the 9.7-inch Retina display. There is a power button at the bottom with Touch ID 2.0, which is quite fantastic as far as a security measure goes for a device. So the design of this iPad is actually very nice, and I do enjoy using it as far as a device goes. The only part I really find that I don't like about it is the screen is a bit small on the front of the iPad. I would have preferred a bit of a bigger one, but considering this thing's almost 6 years old now, there's absolutely no reason for me to be, hating on it in that sense. It's just because it's a slightly older piece of technology, which is why the screen is a little bit smaller on the front and the bezels are a bit thicker. The other thing I don't really like about it is the speakers. It only has bottom firing speakers, so if you ever use it without any headphones on, it definitely gives you a bit of a one-sided experience. Sound only comes out of one side of it, which is a bit unfortunate. As far as performance goes on this iPad, the iPad is capable of handling pretty much the latest iPad OS that just came out, which is really awesome. It allows you to use a keyboard and mouse on this guy and connect it to a file system as well. And it's really awesome the amount of freedom you have now with iPad OS. And I think it's really underestimated by a lot of Android users. And the fact that this guy is still receiving the latest updates from Apple is just absolutely awesome. The screen's resolution is 1536 by 2048. At a size of 9.7 inches. Powering the iPad is a Apple A8X processor. It's quite powerful, and it definitely handles pretty much all gaming on the App Store and most video editing suites pretty much fine. It's also got 2 GB of RAM in here, which is quite low as far as comparing it to newer iPads. But again, you have to keep in mind that it is a bit of an older device. For storage options, you can pick it up in 32, 64, and 128 GB options. The model I've got here is actually the 64 GB, which is really nice for storage. It's not the best, and especially nowadays when you have a lot of photos and videos on this kind of a device, it can run out a little bit quickly. So you might consider getting a slightly bigger model if you're thinking of picking up one of these guys. But as far as actual usability goes, I use this iPad for watching Netflix, a bit of Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, and the occasional gaming, and for me this is absolutely perfect. There's no time when it lags or slows down. It's a brilliant iPad for media consumption, and there's very little that you can't do on here, which makes it a fantastic option for younger kids as well, especially at the cheaper price tag that you can find these on like eBay or on a used website like Facebook. So moving on to the camera. The rear-facing camera is an 8-megapixel shooter. The front-facing camera is a 1.2 megapixel shooter, but I definitely don't recommend that you guys use it for anything other than maybe some FaceTime calling or something, because these are very poor cameras, but they are okay for the occasional FaceTime or messenger call. So finally guys, let's take a look at some performance in a bit of gaming. I've got a couple of games loaded up. I'm going to start off with Vainglory. It plays the game absolutely fine, completely smooth at 60 FPS the whole time. absolutely no slowdowns and a really smooth experience on this iPad. There was a couple more games I wanted to try, like Grid Autosport, and that's probably where I found the biggest issue with this iPad, is it's actually not supported by some of the newest titles. So some of the games in the App Store are really demanding, and they just don't run on this iPad. It's just too old for these kind of titles like Grid Autosport, so you will have to keep that in mind if you pick up something like this. Not all the latest and greatest titles will work on here, but a large majority of them will. So I was able to run other games like Asphalt 9 on here, albeit at a little bit lower graphic settings, but it was still really playable, and the game looked fantastic anyway. Next up, Real Racing 3, a bit of an older title as well, but again it ran really smoothly on this iPad, no problems whatsoever. So finally guys, should you pick up this iPad in 2020? I'm going to say a resounding yes. I've been using this iPad for the last 6 years without a single hiccup. I've dropped it a few times, the screen hasn't broken, but besides from that, this iPad is very good. It's so clean to use, especially for media consumption. It's got a headphone jack that a lot of new iPads just don't have. You can do some really easy video editing on here. All around guys, it is a very capable iPad. Just make sure you get a refurbished model and don't settle for anything like 16 or 32 gigabytes. Choose the 64 gig as a minimum option. I would go 128 gigs if you can find it, but as far as performance goes in 2020, this iPad is still going very strong. Anyway guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'll catch you guys in the next one.